What's up guys, it's Scoopman5000. Today we're back for another action figure review, back with some McFarlane DC Multiverse, and today we're looking at the brand new Injustice 2, The Flash, and Gorilla Grodd. And I'm super excited to take a look at these. Not only is it good old DC Multiverse, but a brand new subline in Injustice 2. And Injustice 2 and the original Injustice, some of my favorite corners of the DC universe. You know this if you checked out my Storm Collectibles review of the Dark Side way back in the day. But Injustice, one of my favorite things, and whenever there's a new action figure in the 6-7 inch scale, I'm gonna have to pick it up, and that's no different for these two. And it's also exciting because it is a Flash, it is a Gorilla Grodd, noticeably no Batman figures, which is sort of an improvement. Again, I don't mind getting a million Batmans, but that is a complaint, is that we get too many of them. So here's two Flash-centric characters for your collection. For the packaging, it's what we're used to with DC Multiverse, just a big window showing you everything you're gonna get. On the side, it's got the Flash, Gorilla Grodd, Injustice 2, and then also the logo for Injustice 2 on the top. On the other, it's an extension of the window with some smaller logos. On the top, you even get Injustice 2, and then when you go to the back, you see it's some trading card artwork, which they've moved again to action figure shots instead of comic book or reference shots, which I'm not a fan of. I wish these were the renders from Injustice instead of just figure shots. But other than that, pretty great packaging, but we are going to go ahead. We're going to take these guys open. We're going to take a look at the Flash and Gorilla Grodd. And here's the Flash out of the packaging, and for accessories, as always, we're getting the black figure stand and the trading card, and here you can see the back of the trading card, and then we're also getting 3 different lightning effect pieces. And these you gotta have some patience with. I don't really understand where they kind of fit on the figure. You kind of just gotta play around with them. For one of them, it's more of a lightning ball effect, kind of a projectile attack, if you will, if you're going off of Injustice 2. The other one more is a more traditional wraparound lightning piece that will go on the other side. Maybe this is for like a lightning uppercut. And then there's another piece that I think is supposed to clip onto the back of the leg and kind of represent him getting out of his running stance. But pretty bare bones on the accessories, but I think that's to do with the fact that this is all brand new sculpt, brand new figure, and just looking at him right here, vanilla and everything like that, looks straight out of the game. Now, some people are kind of iffy on the Flash's Injustice design, but comparing this to the game, to that default suit, it's jumping right out of the game. And I think maybe they have access to the 3D models or something, but even when we get to the head sculpt here, that's an absolutely perfect likeness to that game that looks just like he does in those intro cutscenes and everything like that. So really spot on. I will say the big thing with this figure, the big negative I think, is that there's definitely a shine to the plastic and he almost feels oily. And I don't know if that's, you know, the certain batch that mine came out of when it was molded in the factory, or whether or not he was maybe left in the packaging for a bit longer in some heat. Either way, he feels oily, and I think that suit in the game, it looks more matte, and it should definitely not be this shiny. But I mean, that's plastic quality. It's maybe not something directly in McFarlane's control. So head sculpt looks good. Going down to the torso, the rest of the body really, great looking armor design. Now this is not quite armored as the rest of Injustice 2 is. It's a bit more form-fitting. It fits better on the Flash. But of course, as you upgrade your character, you unlock more armor pieces, and eventually he could look ridiculous. But in this case, we're just getting the default costume. You'll notice even in the middle, the golden Flash symbol. There's no white in the background here that's more traditional. And again, in the game, this piece right here is an unlockable piece. So you can swap that out for different logos, and one of them is going to be the more traditional white background, but in this case it is left blank. I've seen someone actually paint this figure with the white symbol and it looks good. Maybe if I got a second one I'd consider that, but I'm not going to go customizing a brand new figure. But it's something you can do if you're into that kind of thing. Always weird choices with the hands, especially when we don't get alternates. So in this case it's an open one and a fist. And then I think the last great detail is on the boots here. The wings coming out of the back look very good. And speaking of which, the wings on the front as well, I think they're actually similar or the same piece, but these are very thick, very durable. That was an issue on the other Flash figure, and even on some Batmans, that the ears sticking out would kind of warp if you weren't taking care of them properly, or if they were just left in a certain spot, or sometimes even right out of the packaging. So in this case, they're very durable, very thick, and I think they'll last a lot longer. For his articulation, the head's looking up that far. Pretty good on the Flash for running poses, not really down so much, and you are getting a little bit of tilt. Butterfly shoulders are very nice. They have a nice kind of fluidity to them. Shoulders are going to hinge upwards and they're going to rotate. Bicep cut is there, but it's actually cut into such a way that it kind of locks in place. So you're not really getting too much movement unless you really force it on the figure. Double jointed elbow is very good, however. And then you are getting the McFarlane balls at the wrist. Torso's got a joint here and a joint here. So it's going that far back. Forward that much, and you are getting awesome tilting direction with this. Legs are splitting out, revealing the McFarlane hinges at the thighs and at the legs. Kicking back a little bit, kind of have to go out because of the trunks. forward that much. Double jointed knee is pretty good, although a bit tight. Then we're getting McFarlane ball joints at the foot, as well as a toe hinge. And that does cover the Flash, so now let's go ahead and let's do some comparison. And here he is with our Rebirth / Metal Flashes. They're basically the same figure, just with different heads and hands. And this is what I was talking about here with the ears. Mine are all sorts of warped on this Metal version, and it seems like that won't be an issue on this Injustice version. But you can see he's a lot thicker, he's a lot wider. He is about the same height, which is good. But these are all different universes, different artists, so you can't really go by that. But just for thoroughness sake, and if you're going to have a Flash Multiverse kind of Speed Force shelf, here's what it's going to look like. And here he is with the Red Death figures, completing our McFarlane Flash collection. For some other DC gaming figures, here he is with the Arkham Knight Batman and the Arkham Asylum Joker. And if you wanted to get crazy with it, here is Sub-Zero and here is Raiden, both of who were guest characters in Injustice 2. Don't mind the wacky color schemes, but I would love to actually get versions of these guys from Injustice 2. I loved Raiden's superhero costume, and of course the Injustice, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero are some of my favorite designs ever. And with that also, a Mortal Kombat Joker. McFarlane, you have both of these licenses, let's make those guest characters. And if you want to get really crazy with it, and also I just love any excuse to dig these guys out, here's with the Storm Collectibles, Darkseid, and Bane from Injustice Gods Among Us. And that brings us to Gorilla Grodd, and for accessories, he has none, but he does get the figure stand and the trading card that we get with every single figure, and then here's the back of the trading card again. But Gorilla Grodd, not a character that necessarily needed any accessories, although some alternate hands would have been nice, but here's what we're left with. And it's also worth noting, this figure does have a chase version, a platinum variant, which is the silvery looking gear. And I'm definitely going to have to pick that up, but I don't want to overpay for it. Maybe I'll wait to see if I can find it in stores. Nonetheless, here we are with basic golden Gorilla Grodd. And right off the bat, the issue here is scale. Taking the Flash, putting him next to him. I mean, he is bigger, but not by much. And in Injustice, you have two character types. You have large characters, and you have normal sized characters. And Gorilla Grodd would definitely fall under the larger scale. And it's also a shame when I bring in comparisons later with that Darkseid with the Bane, he's just not going to look right next to them. But even within McFarlane, he's still a bit small. He would have benefited from being some kind of a Build-A-Figure. But we can go ahead and appreciate what's here anyway. And what that is tons of sculpted armor, and then a great gorilla sculpt underneath. It's almost going to be hard to look inside and see that face sculpt, but what's there does look very good. He's in that screaming expression, and his mouth looks red with blood on the inside there. So very menacing, very scary looking Gorilla Grodd. But then we get to the rest of him. The armor is really the name of the game here. I mean, the fur hair sculpt all over this guy is impressive, but the armor is really where it's at. Tons of intricate, ornate detailing. Horns, spikes, armor plates, all over the place. That starts out with the helmet, and you can see it's pretty form-fitting to his head there. And I'm going to try to get the best angles just so you can see all these details. I'm not going to be able to describe them and do it justice. When we get to the arms here, it's the same on both sides. You're getting some spikes, a skull, you're getting some wrist gauntlets, and as well as some armor even on the fingers and everything like that. All of that looks pretty spectacular. He's kind of got like gripping hands, which maybe isn't the best. I think maybe having fists if he wasn't going to have any swappable parts. For the torso, I don't really understand what this piece is for. It might have some kind of actual use in like old school classic armor, but for me this just kind of looks weird. But it is accurate to the game. It's more of a game design. A lot of times the gold color will look pretty cheap, but in this case I think it turned out as well as it could for this scale and this size. But I cannot even do this justice. Really tons of great detail. It's just a shame that we don't get really the best scale when it comes to this figure. Before we get to comparing him, however, let's go ahead and try to do some articulation. I haven't really fiddled with this guy yet. I'm a bit afraid to, because just look at him, he doesn't look like he'll be moving the best. But we'll see what we can do. For the head sculpt, pretty decent going back that far. That's more than I expected. And forward is going to be that much. He's going to bury his chin into this front chest plate. For looking back, it's going that far. You are getting a gap here, but what can you do with a figure this size? He's not really going to look forward all that much. I guess that far is pretty decent. He does have butterfly shoulders, which is impressive for the size of him. Shoulders are going up that far. Bicep cut is there. Elbows are going to move not quite 90 degrees. And then it's just a hinge at the fist. And maybe the hands do rotate, but very tough on the figure. The legs are going to split, and there's still McFarlane style joints in there. Kickback is that far, forward is that much. The knee is going about 90 degrees. The foot has almost Marvel Legends style of hinge and ankle rocker. Not the greatest articulation, but maybe more than you'd expect. I also didn't mention the toe hinge. But with that, we're going to go ahead, we're going to straighten out our Gorilla Grodd. We're going to go ahead and let's do some comparison. And here he is with those comic flashes, and he definitely is bigger, but he doesn't seem as tall as I'd like him to be in my mind. But maybe this is accurate, but as far as I can tell, this definitely is a bit too short. That's especially true when we bring in the Arkham characters, and you can see both of them are basically about as tall as Gorilla Grodd, and that's just not quite right. And the same thing is going to be apparent with the Mortal Kombat 11 guest characters next to Gorilla Grodd. And then this kind of breaks my heart. Here he is with the Darkseid and the Bane from Storm Collectibles, and I always thought that these lines would be more closer together in scale. We could have a big Injustice collection, but this is a bit too far. I think both of these guys absolutely tower over Gorilla Grodd, and that's not how it should be when you look at the game. And just for fun, here he is with the NECA King Kong, and these are very close in size. I actually thought the King Kong was much larger, but he's only a little bit larger. Even still, standing this guy all the way straight, this would have been at least a little bit better. I think this guy definitely deserves some kind of deluxe release to really give him some size. And overall, that does do it for the Flash and Gorilla Grodd from Injustice 2, and despite the slightly smaller Gorilla Grodd in this case, I think these are great releases, and it just makes me want even more Injustice 2 characters from McFarlane. And even if they pulled from Injustice 1, you probably got like 50 characters right there. Even if you wanted to bring in guest characters, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, Hellboy, Ninja Turtles, I think that writes itself. All of those would be absolutely phenomenal, great releases. And I think if they're anything like these two in terms of sculpt, detail, and accuracy to the game, I think we're in good hands getting some more Injustice figures. I can only hope that McFarlane doesn't get kind of cold feet with Injustice and just move on to the next thing like has happened in the past year or so of DC Multiverse. At the very least, I know we're getting a Dr. Fate and we're getting a recolor of the Flash. So at least this line is expanding a little bit, but I want to see even more. As always, I'm going to be taking some figure photography of these two, and I'm going to leave that on my Instagram, scoopman_5000. But that is going to do it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next action figure review.